Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. I'm your host, Tim Spring, and today I'm joined by Indicio CTO Ken Ebert and VP of Communications and Governance Trevor Butterworth. And they're here to discuss the upcoming Indicio meetup, which will be focused on decentralized identity in the financial sector. Really appreciate both of you taking the time to talk to us today. Would you mind kicking us off with a brief introduction of what decentralized identity can bring to the financial services?
I think there are two aspects to decentralized, excuse me, identity and finance. First is risk reduction. That's the side of, can I reduce fraud? Can I enable detection of bad actors in the system? Can I quickly reduce that expense side of the equation? I think the more important side of it, though, is what it does for the user experience and the ability to expand the ability to quickly service customers and have a better workflow for them, and then take it into new revenue opportunities with partners or other organizations within the, the ecosystem of the financial institution.
I want to amplify that on a personal level. I'm absolutely exhausted by the complicated way we have to log into bank accounts. And I want to see verifiable credentials be used for passwordless login so that there's a safe, secure, and above all, swift way of me accessing my account and managing my financial affairs. And building on that, what I think is even, I'll be really happy if that happens soon. But down the pike, it gets even more exciting when I will be able to do an awful lot more from my mobile phone because of the technology allows mobile devices to interact securely and function, take on the functionality of APIs. So what that means is that I will be able to seamlessly authenticate myself, seamlessly share consent and share data, and then get a whole level of new services we can barely imagine doing on our mobile phones right now.
So, Trevor, I talked about it from the point of view of the financial institution, and you talked about it more as the consumer of the technology. And I think that those are both valid points.
Hey,
Two
well,
sides.
that's the win. That's the win-win here. I mean, rarely does a we often think of technology coming along and it's got one winner and it's got a loser. And somebody has to lose in order for somebody to benefit from the technology. Well, this is a win for everyone, right? It solves so many of the institutional problems and challenges, and it makes life better for consumers, and in a dramatic way. So that's what's really exciting about this is that it does something for everybody, and the something isn't trivial.
Absolutely. So you guys touched on some very cool functionality there, Trevor. I love the aspect of being able to do basically anything for your financial institution from your phone. Uh, how does decentralized identity really accomplish this, and why do we think it does it better? If we could dig into that a little bit deeper.
Uh, Decentralized identity puts the credentials in the hands of the end user, the customer, and allows them to make decisions about where and when to share things. That I think is an important consideration. It's not stored in a hackable um, backend database. It's stored on my phone. I control it, and I'm not a good target for attackers to come after because I've only got one credential, and it's very secure, so that the likelihood of losing my data to somebody looking at or trying to pry into my phone is very, very low. The idea of having that in the control of the end user means that if they choose to take it to a partner organization or to a different division of the same financial institution, they can do so easily and readily. And it's trusted information that can be acted upon as soon as it's presented.
So again, to amplify what Ken has just said, is this technology in the way it goes about authentication, which is through cryptography, enables portable trust. So I can prove who I am, or I can prove that I have, I have a legitimate account at a legitimate institution without a third party being involved in managing that authentication. And that has dramatic benefits from security because we know that storing lots of personal login data and account data in centralized databases is a enormous source of fraud. And the system that we use to access that information and manage these accounts is easily attacked and phished. So removing that and then enabling you to take your bank credential or account credential or KYC credential and go to any institution or go anywhere that has the verification software and then be able to authenticate yourself in whatever interaction it is in a payment. This just it's like that decluttering all the unnecessary and shonky and wonky systems and processes that we have right now for something that's resilient, strong, and speedy. And yeah, I again can't wait.
Absolutely. And I love where you said, verifying before payments, because I don't know if you've used Venmo, but it's just, a picture of your friend or maybe a name, right? John Smith, if they haven't picked their avatar.
Listen, I'm not even going to use any of those services until they adopt verifiable credential technology. I just will not trust it. I mean, I personally, I find multi-factor authentication to be a real pain, a real friction point. And even that is outmoded now by what the fraudsters can achieve. So I'm not, I'm ready to, both of us work in tech. We've been enthusiastic about tech all our lives, but I'm not embracing new tech that doesn't deliver the kind of assurance and security and privacy that I'm entitled to at this point in the history of the internet and digital interaction.
That's totally fair. So speaking of new tech, one of the things that I'm particularly excited about for this meetup is a demonstration of what the technology can really do. I was curious if you guys could talk a little bit about the demonstration that's planning on being shown and what everyone will be able to see.
I think it's an interesting demonstration because it involves the use of three different types of credentials: a driver's license credential, a KYC credential, and an account credential. And each of those has its own place, but it shows the driver's license being used as part of the KYC process to onboard a new customer. It shows a KYC credential that might incorporate other aspects of the KYC process that were used in the establishment of an account relationship, and then the issuance of an account credential that establishes ownership or access to a particular an account. And I think that those are three very interesting credentials. The two that are issued by the bank itself are the KYC credential, which is then used to further the relationship of the bank with other divisions, or taken to an outside external party where they can immediately be trusted because they're signed by the bank. The account credential gives you access to a particular account, and I think that's a really interesting feature that Trevor hinted at earlier in the discussion.
So I think on more general terms, watching this technology in action beats reading about it or even, listening to us talk about it. Because it's, decentralized identity can get very complicated very quickly because it does so much. But when you see a demonstration, you see how elegant it is, how all those words and concepts just melt away into simple, intuitive actions and processes that deliver enormous customer value.
Absolutely. And it is very, for lack of a better term, slick when you do see how credentials are exchanged. I do enjoy seeing that and all the different things they can do. Um, so I know there's a guest speaker planned for the session, which is Dan Gasolfi, who's head of R&D at Discover, which, for those unfamiliar, Discover is a giant financial institution. What are you excited to talk to him about and really get his opinion on in terms of the tech or the industry, or what are we excited to talk to Dan about?
From the technology point of view, it's incorporating this new cool technology into the interactions for a financial institution. And Dan has particular insights into that and how it can be useful for both the financial institution and its customers. I think Trevor can tell you more about the excitement he expects to see from the user point of view.
Well, I'm interested. Gartner, the research firm, released a recent report on decentralized identity. It really talked about how sort of banking and financial use cases for verifiable credentials are critical, but it didn't seem to suggest that the industry knows what to do with them. So I'm interested in understanding what the blockers are. Is it that this technology is so new that banking and finance people just don't know it exists? And if that's the case, how can we explain to them why this is going to make everything better for them and their customers?
Absolutely. That actually goes really well into my next question, which is what do you think will be the biggest game changer for the financial industry because of this technology?
I think it starts with the financial institution itself and how they can use it internally and how they can improve their interactions with um, their end users. So passwordless login using a credential makes the interactions safer, quicker. You're not outsourcing it to a federated identity system or a 26 factor auth. I think that's a big game changer for the industry. But I think that the ability to interact and have their ecosystem expand to include partners is another big game changer and allows for um, partnerships or other types of arrangements that I think benefit not only the financial institution, but benefit the consumer as well.
I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, there's going to be a certain amount of time dealing with the kind of basic use cases which Ken has outlined. I think it's going to be exciting to see what happens when people start using the technology to innovate. My analogy is the telegraph. The telegraph starts off, you're able to send a message a few miles, but within several decades, people had figured out how to use it to network the US through a rail system. And then shortly after that, how to wire money. So when you create a sort of a network system for trust, there's so many exciting things that can be done with that by people, but by innovate through people innovating when they figured out how to use the technology in basic use cases. So there's a real potential fintech revolution that could happen, and I believe will happen. So that's going to be very interesting. But we're creating infrastructure, and that's really powerful. And just like it's the case of when the web first started, people could barely imagine the kinds of things we'd be doing on it. So it's always the things there's many obvious use cases for this technology in banking and finance. It's the not obvious ones that are the most exciting because they're not obvious. So I'm looking forward to seeing how all of this spins out over the next couple of years.
That's totally fair, and you make a good point on that. What do you think will be, or what do you hope to take away from the conversation happening soon? And what do you hope for the audience to take away in terms of, a few just kind of major points?
I think that as you talk about the technology, see it in action, hear people's thoughts about how it can be applied in a particular organization, that it triggers the imagination to say, how could this be applicable and useful in solving some of the problems that they see in their own particular vertical or their own particular situation, and it can inspire them to come up with better solutions to make happier consumers, happier businesses to improve the quality of the interactions.
I think one is worth touching on how verifiable credential technology really assists banking and finance with some really cutting edge problems. Notably, the sort of the combination of deep fake phishing, call center attacks, the use of AI to derail or fake onboarding or customer accounts. So there's some really interesting and powerful ways this technology can be applied to some really new problems that are, pose considerable cost and risk to both institutions and customers. So I hope we'll get a chance to address that too.
Nice. Well, it looks like that is about our time for today. I really appreciate you both taking the time to stop by and speak to everybody. If you at home are interested in learning a bit more about verifiable credential technology, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll continue to bring you some more educational content. If you have any questions or specific topics that you'd like for us to cover, please go ahead and leave a comment below, and we'll be sure to address them. Thank you all for watching.